Aloha. With this video, I wanted to do a kind of brief little overview or review of the Russian Doll Netflix series. It's a short little series, short comparable to the other ones like Westworld and Hell on Wheels and stuff. But this was a short one that I kind of just stumbled upon, and it was interesting enough to do a little breakdown because it pertains to a lot of the latest topics that I've been speaking on, and it's pretty deep. Like when you really want to break it down, depending on what you want to break it down from. So before I go any further, there's going to be some spoilers, and I would recommend watching this. There's not many that I would recommend watching, but there's not many things that are pretty much entertaining out there. I watched this without watching the trailer, which made it even better. So if you are seriously looking or interested in something that, is interesting, and you kind of trust where I'm coming from as far as like the depths of thought with breaking stuff down, then I would recommend checking it out before even watching this breakdown, so you don't get any spoilers or anything. But if you're not really tripping on it and you just want to hear the breakdown, or if you just want to watch it later, then that's cool too. But yeah, so you have been warned. The Russian Doll series was I don't know, I'm trying to figure out which way to approach it from. So overall, you have two main characters in here. Eventually, once you get to the other character, you have two main characters. You have Nadia Volvikov is her name. So you got the vulva. This is heavy masculine and feminine story talks. So you have the feminine character and the masculine character, and basically you're going through their life journeys, and they keep repeating their life over and over again because they're working their way to what lessons they're trying to learn within this experience. So the biggest lesson that the woman has to learn is to not be subjected to her sexual like desires. Like her whole life is based upon sex, so it's like this yeah, so it basically how I've been relating videos recently. Her creative energies, her creative potentialities, her creative everything is channeled into this dark, drug infested, sex driven nothingness abyss. And she's actually called the abyss by her ex-boyfriend, in this sort of like emotional rage. He calls her, he tells her he feels like he's being sucked into the abyss when he's around her, but he's saying that she is actually the abyss. So she can act, or that program that she's trapped in can also act as the abyss for somebody else. So she's an abyss to herself, but she also acts as an abyss to others in that state, when she's in that state. So you can see this as every woman, being as the abyss in that state. The same for every man who is, acting the same way in that state. So there's one aspect that is mentioned, but it's really briefly mentioned. So you can take that as like the creative portal. You can see, well, this was a creative portal of not just life, like physical life, but non-physical life that has now turned into self-destructive abyss of empty relationships, empty parties, empty life, repetitive nothingness, and it's just a cycle that goes on and on and on and on. And the thing is that this is accepted as normal by society. So this is the intention of the society. Like I've said in previous videos, it's the intention to maintain control. As long as you are a sick and codependent, insecure, needy, emotional, empty, abyss-like creature, then you need some kind of stability. You need like a superhero around you. You need some kind of something that's going to make you stable in some way. So the government or the establishment plays as that stability factor, even though that the same establishment is a part of instigating and causing a lot of these unstable or unstable issues within the micro and the macro expressions of each person, not to mention society. So you have she's called the Abyss. Her main thing is to not be sucked into this sexual abyss that spirals out, that could spiral out into, changing her whole timeline for what? So instead of, dragging out those timelines that she's living, what they do is they reset her life after every lesson that's learned, or every lesson that isn't learned in the series. So this same event is happening with another character that she's mutually linked with, and they don't find out until later. She's linked with this character who's doing the same thing, and he starts to realize that he's dying all the time too. The thing is with these characters that I have to emphasize is that they don't realize the lessons that's being learned until they see each other. They don't really realize what's happening. They're trying to either, so on the guy side, he has gone into loving that world, that structure, that resetting thing. He has climatized to that experience. He's made a business out of, trying to basically just accepting his purgatory. So he just does it over and over and over again. His purgatory is like, I think he's constantly reliving, proposing to his wife or his fiance, proposing to his girlfriend. But the thing is, he finds out, like, when he's getting ready to go propose to her, that she had been cheating on him. So the thing with him is that he just keeps going through that process of that pain of that experience, and then he just moves on, and then he just ends up somewhere else. But he just keeps doing that, while Nadia, she's living her life thinking she's doing it, like she's doing the same thing, but she's just dying over and over and over again. So you can see this like expanded out to lives. People live entire lives and like this of nothing. So anyway, let's see. He's aware of it, and he has normalized that situation. The thing is, why he's normalized it is because, mostly how I see it, is because he has also forgotten how he got there, his first death. And his first death was suicide. So that's why another reason why he has created this sort of, well, I've done this to myself sort of thing. That's why he forgot his initial death. So while he's doing that, Nadia she remembers her first death, and she goes deeply into her processing of that from the get-go. She never lets that go. This is why when she first finds out that she's dying over and over again, she immediately goes on this investigation of what's going on. And one of the first things, or one of the main things that I caught when she started researching what was going on was on her first death, it was her first response was like this spiritual experience. She started to break down what was going on spiritually. And then after that, she went into this like, what's really going on sort of thing. But I just thought it was interesting that they went on that note with her for that first little kick. And then they went from there. So his lesson was not only like it didn't only involve his suicide, but it was also like the control factor. So he had many different control issues with, you can see his lifestyle. He was obsessive compulsive, so everything was lined up and structured, and everything was just, you know, he tried to control the world instead of just being a part of it. And in that, he was losing out on what his real missions were. Another thing that happens that's a reoccurring theme is the dream, or the mirrors. So these mirrors are, every time they reset, they're looking at a mirror. So they're looking at themselves, and what's happening towards the end is that they're realizing that it's them that's trying to hold themselves alive by anchoring themselves in this, in the fucked up shit that they're supposed to learn from. So the fucked up shit that they're supposed to learn from goes all the way back to they themselves, the individual themselves. So when they're coming to their last death, Nadia's childhood relationship with her mother and all that, this is a reoccurring theme later in the video or later in the series, tells her, are you ready to let her die yet? So it's really talking about letting the old person die. So this relates to like not looking in the mirror, like society, the establishment, not ever looking in the mirror, breaking the mirrors. This is why you can't talk about history. You can't talk about what's really going on and why the system is selling this move on mentality, is because just like this series, it can't look in the mirror. It has to live in and glorify this, the society the way it is. So it's glorifying the sexual abyss trap. It's glorifying the guy's also a gamer too. He plays video games. Just your basic, you know, adolescent-minded man who's stuck in the normal thing. So he eats all this junk food, works out a lot, obsessive compulsive, a gamer, no relationships, and she has the other side. She's extremely she's involved in a lot of relationships with a lot of people, not really sexually, but just like knowing a lot of people. She's around a lot of people, but still empty. So they're both empty, whether they're with somebody or they're without somebody. So they're still empty. What else is there? So the mirror, yeah. So the experience itself is constantly reinforcing or it's like reinforcing the messages that need to be learned in order to learn from the experience. So what's happening is that the individuals are so anchored in who they are not, which is the individual that they're trying to transcend from. They're so engaged in who they are in that, like, which is who they are not. They're live. They can't see the separation. So this is like a movie that forces them to see the separation of forces the viewer to see the separation of the body and the spirit or the soul. Once you get to realizing that that's the intention of what's going on, then you can start to break down the relationships. So this relationship with her friend, these characters are like bots. They're like part of the Matrix. She keeps falling down the stairs. Everybody else, so this is the thing, everybody else is basically doing the same thing she is doing, but they are unaware. So they just become like subconscious characters in like in the Inception movie, in the dreams. They become just like characters. So everybody is just like a character for her dream, her experience, but they're actually doing the same thing. And a lot of the times they're not learning the same lessons because it's taking longer. So when she interacts with these characters, they're just playing the same dream over and over again. So some of the time she just dies. Like she falls down the stairs. She just dies if her life is not going to be, lined up the way that she needs to go. Another thing to learn the lesson. Another thing is they find out that they're also dying at the same time. Her and her the person that she's linked to in this experience. They're dying at the same time, so they're resetting at the same time. And so one or the other is either learning the lesson or not learning the lesson. And that determines how much time they stay in that space. So she's constantly trying to learn the lessons, and she's constantly resetting. And that's why the guy she runs into says that he messed up, or she messed up his flow or his little gig, because he was like, everything was cool until you came and fucked up everything. Well, he didn't know that he was fucked up. He had like normalized that, that purgatory basically. She helped him get out of there. She's trying to explain what's going on to these dead folks, but they don't understand. She spirals in and out over and over again. What else is there? Another thing that this is said, another way this is designed is they have these characters, and this is with movies in general. They have these characters that are supposed to like be relatable and everything. Yeah. I don't want to go into that too much, so. What else is there? Heavy sex. So this is the themes that are here. Heavy sex themes, to where like her friends that she's the party that she's at, she ends up one of the times that she lives and dies is like she wakes up after living through the night around a fuck pile, she calls it. So it's just like this sex party. So there's that. She's surrounded by that. That's just an example of how the whole world is trapped in that kind of consciousness. And then you have, what else was a theme in there? So looking back at the childhood, looking back at like your relationships. That's another thing. In order for her to move forward, she has to like heal the relationship with her boyfriend. Another thing that happens is that they realize that all the people that are living on, so they're like ahead of the curve. They're like ahead of what's going on. Everybody else is going to be doing what they're doing. They just don't know it yet. So in order to help people to do what they need to do in that experience of that life, what these characters realize is that they can help them. The other characters live on. So each time these characters die, everybody in that timeline is grieving for them, but they are getting closer and closer and closer to realizing their own mirror, realizing their own like Russian doll movie script. So they're not there yet. So what they realize is that each person that they interact with, they can help with eventually getting there. I don't know if they emphasize. I don't think they really emphasize that that's what they just know that there is a relationship with them living on, like these timelines live on. So this is another timeline movie. Another, like, this could be easily tied into the Mandela effect conversation if if people wanted to, but it's definitely tied into the simulation theory as far as like the system wanting to sell this easily digestible story of, like, what are we doing here? What's our job? Like, what's our mission? What's our purpose individually and collectively? What is this world about? This Russian doll might be seen as just another interesting, entertaining, artistic piece, but when you put this stuff up next to all this, like I said, once again, this is Netflix, so this kind of mind control is no different than the mind control of like the Behind the Curve documentary and all the Disclosure documentary, the Zeitgeist documentary, and all these other controlled sort of official 9/11 story bullshit that's out there. You have the Russian doll is just another version of that. But a lot of people say, "Oh well, I think people feel close to a lot of this stuff because it affects them a certain way." But when you really take all of your own personal attachments off of what's really going on, then you can start to see some shit that you didn't really recognize was there before. And this is a good example of that. Once you start to realize that the simulation theory is something that's needing to be pushed by this system, you start to see why they push a lot of this other stuff that's out there. So the homeless guy is the only one who really knows what's going on. He kind of keeps his distance until the end of the movie, when they start really communicating, and then they come to find out he's a character that's like in the know. So the people who have separated from Grid or the Matrix are the ones that are in the know. He's one of them, and then he's part of the celebration towards the end of the movie. Another thing, like I said, this is a trip I'm just realizing now, in reference to my dream themes. One of the dream themes is a party. Like I've said to other people all the time, in reference to dream video breakdowns, there are different kinds of themes and learning environments in dreams that are broken down many different times. One of them is an elevator. This is something that's also mentioned in this video. These two characters meet in an elevator. Of course, they cross paths before that, but they actually meet and recognize each other while they're dying inside the elevator that's crashing to their death. One ping. Another theme is the party. There's a party theme dream that happens all the time. Just like there's a medical or a hospital theme, there's a public school or like an education system theme. There's a death place theme. There's other kind of themes, but they don't feel as like heavy duty as like location sort of themes like that. There's other themes like rescue themes and escape themes and stuff like that. Those are reoccurring stuff like that. Obviously, like nightmare is a theme, in one sense, but these are related to more of the flavors of the dreams itself. The theme that I'm talking about, the location theme, is different. It has there's something more tactile about that kind of theme. because it's it's like a place, and you can have all those different kinds of little smaller themes within the location theme. So one of the themes that I thought just seeing this image right now was interesting was the party theme. So, and this is the thing, it always felt like really felt like surrounded by all my friends. But this is the same thing in this video. Surrounded by all my friends. I thought it was partying and celebrating and all this other stuff. So anyway, I just thought it was an interesting way to see the themes of dreams before and looking at this now. So there's the party theme, there's the hospital or medical theme, there's the education or school theme, and then the elevator. The elevator has always been like a hotel theme was another one too. Hotel, and that was also kind of like included with the elevator sometimes, but definitely like being in a hotel or like a lobby of a hotel. So anyway, let's see what else is there. Chicken is another thing. Like, so here's the meat eating thing that I was talking about. Maybe they're trying to tie that into, like I said, they're pushing one theme. You have to realize that another one of these things or themes or things are going to be pushed along with it. So if this just, give me the benefit of the doubt here that this is to push simulation theory. Realize that vegan agenda is also, this is not to, take the sides of meat eating and all this other stuff. This is to emphasize a lot of, I've went into detail a lot of these videos before, so check out the other videos if you're having difficulty with some of this stuff. Before you get in the comment section, throwing stuff around. This is talking about themes. So if the simulation theory is a theme that's being sold by the establishment, the same thing can be said for the vegan agenda. It's a theme. So it doesn't surprise me that, this chicken, because it seemed kind of forced. It seemed like a thing that was like needed to be in there. And my question is, what for? So you can tie it all back into the world of death or the universe of death, and we're eating death. Like, we eat death to sustain ourselves in this dead world. But you could also tie it back into like, as far as like how the system uses stories and stuff like that. This could easily be tied in like that. So you have the chicken thing. So yeah, her friend's making a chicken for her birthday, which was weird, obviously. In one of her deaths, she gets mad at her friend and, throws the chicken on the ground. When she goes to her aunt's house, or whoever her mom's friend is, she eats chicken. She just like eats it just like you're looking at it right now. Let's see, what's another one? I don't know. It's just another thing. She's called crazy. They're taking her to the psych ward on this one. She's learning from each and one of these experiences. In one of the images, like you're looking at right now, she's kind of on the other side of the wall. The guy appears on the other side of the wall. So it's kind of like the male and the female tests or something like that of this realm. This is what I'm saying. This Netflix is huge. Like, it's telling people about their reality, or it's telling people what they want them to think about their reality. And like I said, these are these simulation theory anchors and triggers. So yeah, this image or this angle that you're looking at right now, keep in mind, like, just imagine the guy on the other side. So he's doing the same thing. Now imagine this as being like an educational Netflix being an educational platform instead of an entertaining platform. Now you see, it's not that far to see, or not that hard to see, like when you understand the cosmos being on Netflix and so on and so forth. This is what it's first and foremost for. So the mirror, looking through the mirror, they're all doing the same shit. They're not learning from their lessons. She's the example, and like I said, you can have the other side. Like he could be sexually, he could be on that creative energy tip based upon like the sexual part, and she could be on that creative energy tip while like being like obsessive compulsive disorder sort of. Like they could swap easily. That's a known factor here, but just want to emphasize that. So parties. She keeps falling down the stairs. That could be like when she leaves the party. She's not learning from her lessons at the party. And there's information there. Oh, bees. This is another one. I'm glad I clicked on this one. They're both deathly allergic to bees. So bees was another anchor, or another like the bee. You can go into the bee goddess stuff. This is another like reference. Keep in mind, like when these movies or series are built like this, there's way more other things that they could have put in these movies, but they don't. So each thing that is put in the movie is for a very specific purpose. There's a lot of symbolism in here that is very deep. So just imagine if they put bees in here. They could have had them, die a million different other ways. But why so many different things like this? So this one, they realize in that same moment that they're both deathly allergic to bees, and they get swarmed by bees, and then that's one way they die. I think they've died like 16 times or something like that at the end of the movie, or 17, however many times. They're dying the same amount of times. They're dying at the same time. The fruit, this is another thing. The fruit is dying. So the world is dying because they're not learning their lessons. So each time they die and come back, something of the world dies. So one thing that starts dying first is like the plant life. So their food starts to rot. And then the animals start to die. So their fish start to disappear. So you can see this as realms of consciousness that are dying. So the world itself is dying because keepers of the consciousness have been entrapped by the world itself, or by the distractions of the world itself. So if the experiencers of the world are not even, experiencing what this world was meant for, then why should the world exist? So the world is dying as, backwards, depending on, based upon the lack of experiences that these individuals are not learning. They're not using the world for what it's for. So it's just going to perish. So the way they explain this is the fruit is a theme in here. It's old. It dies. The fish, they both have fish. This is another theme. Before I go on to the fish part, they realize towards the end that this time is relative. So she actually cuts open one of these rotten oranges and realizes that the inside of it is still alive. So the original timeline is still alive. Only the outsides of this experience is appearing to be dead. But there's, as long as it's still alive, that means that they still have hope. They still have work to do. Even though the world around them is dying and crashing. So the fish are another theme. They both have fish tanks in their reset locations. The guy has one fish, one beta. I think it's a beta fish. I think that's called a beta fish, which is another kind of funny thing. But he has one fish, and he says in there, if there's two, one will kill the other. That's another kind of. A lot of these are like biblical anchors and stuff like that, or biblical storylines that are sold to people. Something else I wanted to talk about in reference to. Oh, okay, that's what it was. And I could take a side note from there. This is on the biblical tip. We can tie this into real life. I was in Whole Foods the other day, looking at like there's this bar in a Whole Foods, one of the fancy ones, that had, the kombucha bar and all that shit, but they had a theme for each day, as far as like food and combinations, like happy hour. So this is perfect. Happy hour. In fact, I'll look at it right now. The happy hour at the bar that's at Whole Foods, which happens to be at the location that I say is the pinnacle of the spiritual warfare. Whole Foods, that location itself, claiming to be, well, we all know what Whole Foods is about, but take it a step even further. Anyway, let me get this before I lose my train of thought. So, daily specials, happy hour at Whole Foods. It's all focused on wine and beer. Obviously, it's happy hour, but check out the daily stuff. So Monday, wings and beer. Tuesday, tacos and beer. Wednesday, pork sandwich and fries and beer. Thursday, burger, fries and beer. Friday, fish special. So this is all like designed religiously, like based upon like the Christian, like you eat fish on Friday. Then you take it a step even further to the American dream. Like, look at it. Wings, tacos, pork, and beef. Every day of the week is a new, is something else to, just kind of like this, this movie is set up. This menu that you're listening to right now is another version of like the Russian doll setup, like the theme setup. So you can't get through your daily life without being hit with a lot of these symbolic traps. So this is like I said, this is a biblical theme that is existing at a grocery store. Eating fish on Friday, you know what I'm saying? So, but this is not talked about. This is not. So anyway, I just want to share that on a quick little side note relating directly to this. Like, and alcohol is a big one. The guy killed himself. The night he killed himself, he came up with that and carried it out because he had drank too much. Well, not because he had drank too much, but that was a big part of the reason why it was so easy for him to do that. So, alcohol is involved in that. That's life and death. This food is involved in these lives and deaths, obviously. And then now you tie in the symbolic shit with all the themes. Now tie in the actual food itself, the eating of the meat, the death, the wings, the tacos, the pork, the beef. So you got the pig, the cow, the chicken, and whatever else they're putting in the tacos, and then you got the fish. So you got the death of every angle being ingested, and symbolically it's tied in through through the biblical symbolism that we are aware of. We just accept it in society. There's side effects to that accepting. That's my whole point. So anyway, the food. The next thing that starts dying in their world are the fish that represent like the animal kingdom. So they start to disappear. They don't die, they just disappear. They just don't appear as beings in their reset world again. So after they realize the fish start dying, what do you think starts leaving now? Now people start leaving their experience. So towards the end of the series, more and more people are not there, and down to where her party only has like her friend. It's just her and her friend. All these people that they're walking, when they make these, like, in this walk, this is another theme. They're looking directly at her into the camera. This is to represent, like, to emphasize the fact that these are all reset people too. These are all people who are either doing what she's doing and realizing it or not. But the point is, they're all doing it. They're all characters just like her. There's the underground with the drugs. That's not really a big thing. It was just like she just went there to get some information. She found some information about, I think, her mother. And anyway, this is the reset location for the guy. I can't remember his name. Like I said, he's looking in the mirror. Like, you can see the sterility, like how sterile his place is. And you can see how unsterile her life is. So you can see the extremes there. So good movies or good series or anything, stories are all about contrast. Contrast in colors, contrast in lights, contrast in stories, characters, stuff like that. So this is what it's all playing on. Set world that she comes from is a bathroom that was designed by her and built by her lesbian friend, or bisexual, I don't know, her other friend. So that's their relationship. But the point is they designed the bathroom like a vagina. She even references it too. She says, "Is it vaginal enough?" Her last name, Nadia, Nadia's last name is Vulva. Look at the shapes of the windows in here. This actual building is an old Jewish temple of some sort, or school. So this is the whole spiritual aspect of this storyline. Obviously, Hollywood run by the Jewish sect, that whole thing. So also, who runs the porn industry? The same people who run Hollywood. This is all a storyline, and you think it's a big step to think that the same consciousness doesn't run, like, the mind control programs that are connected to simulation theory. Well, what's on what information is on Netflix besides, what you're looking at right now? Everything, all the ancient aliens, the cosmos, all this other stuff, it's on there. So it's one storyline. It's not like they're running one thing and the other. No, it's a consciousness that's running all these storylines. And they're all being told in all different formats and styles. So, yeah, so you can see the windows. Towards the end of the movie, nobody else there. It's just her dancing by herself. She's great. She's loving it. She thinks, this is the way it's supposed to be. That giant red light. Look at her, just basically kind of like dancing, like almost like it's closer to Nadia, but she's like worshiping her death party, where she's baking a chicken for her best friend. So yeah, nobody's in the party. She's there. The bathroom. So yeah, the bathroom set up like a vagina. The water's running. The sink is running all the time. So you hear the running waters. The door that she walks through is literally, they talk about like a cavernous, vaginal type of entryway. It's shaped like the Mother Mary sort of shape, sort of thing, just like these windows that you're looking at right now behind her. So yeah. That's that whole portal kind of stuff. Takes her through the emotional ups and downs of her relationship with her mother. This is the image where she's looking at herself. This is a recurring theme that triggers her into finally realizing what she has to do and what what the whole experience is about. She doesn't realize that before. She kind of realizes it with the introduction was her realizing it with the guy, her friend who's linked with her. But once she starts to open that door about what's really going on, she then starts to realize it's not really so much about her and him. It's more about her relationship with herself. And her relationship with herself traces back to her relationship with her childhood version of herself and her relationship with her mother and so on and so forth. Like, where did this shit go wrong? What did she lose? Her caretaker, aunt or godmother, whoever it is, eventually tells her this and like asks her like, well, what did you lose? Do you still have that fire? Do you still have that, basically that life? She realizes she doesn't, and now that's like the opening of the last chapter to this this story, where she eventually realizes that. So each time she sees her image of herself, she also dies. Like, she has a heart attack. In the beginning, she can't take it. She can't take looking at herself. And it's so overwhelming that she literally just resets herself. So obviously he resets too. So it's very linked. Their worlds are very linked in reference to the beginning stages. So his beginning of shit that, you know, went wrong when they linked up was when he killed herself. She started to go wrong when she started to lose her fire all the way back then. So that's why they have to reset to these certain points. He resets to that point because his suicide was actually a birth of some sort that he needs to deal with. And then in order for them to deal with it, they need each other. So she needs to deal with her childhood version of herself. He needs to deal with his adult version of himself that ended himself. So let's see. What else is there? So here's the colors again. The red. There's the red in the elevator. As they're going down, their first meeting, they die in an elevator that goes down to their death. Another thing that another theme with her is that she wears the red. Red and black is another theme a lot. So this is her shirt. She wears a red shirt a lot for the majority of this series. She can't walk down the stairs. She's kind of like, if you think about it, she would be forced to take the elevator. But she's forced to take the stairs. She can't take the stairs because she's resetting really quickly because each time she walks down the stairs, she dies. So she starts to take the fire escape, thinking that she can get around it, but she can't. The lessons are still there. So this is why there's something else with the stairs too, but I don't know. You can, obviously this is art and it's open to whatever kind of interpretation. But from how I'm breaking this stuff down, this is always going to be some cheap bullshit. Was it entertaining? Was it deep on some level? I would say yes. Was it watchable? I'd say yes. I watched it twice. But a lot of the things that are tied into this is like, I want to break this shit down too. So there's some entertainment value involved in that. On my side, but it might not be entertaining for you at all. That's besides the point. The point is, this stuff exists to sell like I said, the education system is being imploded. It is dead already. We already know that it's meant to mind control. So if that's the case, is the system just going to let something die and not replace it? Of course not. It's going to replace it. Netflix is the education system. This is what I've been saying. Netflix is the new education system. And the new education system is not going to be based on like the same kind of old education that we've been learning. The new education system is going to be based on this new mind control, so-called education. And the new mind control will be surrounded around what? The agendas that they're trying to sell. CERN, the simulation theory, so on and so forth. This is the way they're going to sell it to the people. Through these docu-series and entertainment things, and this kind of stuff, when they're talking about desires and relationships and timelines and dimensions, and then they're triggering it to your personal life, like your own your own belief systems about the whole universe. Of course they're going to use that shit. Of course that's going to be used to make you think a certain way. And how is it going to be in channel? Obviously to, what the system wants to keep you at. They're not going to just leave this out there. You think it would be something this deep would be put out there just to be left out there? No, it's to trigger you. So when Neil deGrasse Tyson comes out later officially saying that his theories or their theories have been proven, quantum physics and quantum mechanics and the interdimensional doorways that have been discovered by the CERN program that has been operating since 1958 and so on and so forth. Like all that stuff is going to be sold to the people. How are the people going to know what to do with that? How are the people going to know how to interpret interdimensional portals and doorways and beings and timelines and all that other? How are they going to learn how to interpret that? They're going to learn, they're going to know, at least subconsciously, because they've been triggered by these series that are out there and these shows that are out there. But consciously, the way they're going to think about this stuff, they're going to think about this stuff from cross-referencing it with how they feel about movies and TV shows like this, like Russian Doll. Because think about it, like CERN and all that simulation theory information that's out there, that's not being taught really in schools. They're still teaching that old American dream bullshit in schools. So, yeah, I don't want to repeat myself on that. No, that's a known factor. Let's see, what else am I missing on here? The fish. Oh, the fishbowl. So the fishbowl was another theme. I don't really have to go into detail about that. The fish were all also to represent like the animal kingdom and like not a stepping stone, but like a what's the series of events. The fish were there to represent a series of events, like not a series, like a timeline, like an order of events. So the food goes first, then the fish, then the people. Or the food, the animals, then the people. So the fish were there to be a part of the order of events, but they were also there, how I see it, to reference the fishbowl type of mentality of us as humans being trapped in a fishbowl. And we're being fed by some kind of intelligence. So this is what they're doing, feeding us this information. But we're still trapped in a fishbowl. And this is just a more complex fishbowl. So taking it to the extremes of the entities behind the scenes, the puppeteers, knowing what's going on, that's kind of like a slap in the face of like, oh yeah, we could throw this stuff right in their face, they wouldn't even know it. We're feeding them their little fish food, but they're still trapped in a fishbowl. They don't have anywhere to go, nothing to do. So that could be another trap or another thing to keep in mind. The door, another thing. The door handle on the vagina door that in this bathroom that she's at right now, when she walks out of that door and grabs the door handle is shaped like a gun. So she pulls the trigger each time she's walking into that party after being reset. She pulls the trigger to open the door, and then she walks in to that world. So this is emphasizing like a death within a death. So she died, reset, then she has to intellectually kill herself and walk into that world. And that world is a trap in itself. That world is another death. So it's death. It's like dreams within dreams within dreams, or deaths within deaths within deaths. And eventually and the whole point of it is her trying to work her way back to figuring out the world itself, like the original death and why, what's going on. Her whole lesson is not about what's going on. That's the whole known factor. It doesn't matter that she's dying over and over and over again. That's the purgatory that the guy has accepted. It's not about what's happening. Actually transcend into their next life or their next world, or learn from this experience that they're trapped in right now. For them to actually do that, they have to start asking how this world works that they're trapped in, and why they keep and how they keep resetting, but also why. That's the thing. They know what's going on. What's going on? They're fucking dying over and over and over again. She realizes that. So before that, consciousness was consciousness of who? So before she started to realize what was happening and what she had to do, she had to first heal and mend the wounds with the who characters. Because the who characters were the ones who were actually trapping her. The Mike dude was the guy who was eventually trapping her in that sexual thing where she was gonna die. Her reset when she got hit, her first death when she got hit by that car. She was with that dude, but that was like the deciding factor. He represents the what, or the who, because she's totally trapped in that world. And then when they reset at the last time and they have to save each other, that's what he's saving against. Her totally wanting to be a part of that world, because she's trapped in the who traps of the individual, the same way he was trapped in the who trap of himself and his hopefully fiance thing. So it was still him. It was that whole world that they trapped themselves in. So who? It's all based on a who sort of thing. Consciousness. Once they realized that, they went into what's going on. Why are what's happening to us? What is this world? And then they realize, okay, they're being reset. They're dying over and over again. Then they realize what's going on with each other. They're being reset at the same time, and then they have to once they realize that it's both of them doing it at the same time. Now they have to figure out how this world works, how they work individually and together. How are they learning and not learning from their experiences? Once they go into realizing what's going on, now the next lesson is, why are these things going on? And they wouldn't be able to go into that consciousness of why if they hadn't first gone into transitioning out or transcending who consciousness, what consciousness, and how consciousness. So now once they start figuring out why, that's like a good example is when she's looking at her younger self, and her younger self tells her, are you ready to let her go? Are you ready to let her die? And she says, yes. And that's when she realizes that she's going through all these experiences because she's trying to keep a dead person alive. Like her dead self in a dead world. In order for her to truly be alive, she has to let go of her dead self in the dead world. But everything about her dead self in her dead world was her only interpretation of what being alive is. So once she realized that, that's when she can officially die, and that's when she reset and he reset to the beginning, and now they have to save each other the right way, knowing everything that's going on. So he helps her. He helps her not be subjected to her own enslavement through, her spiraling out. And then she helps him not kill himself, which is the same thing, like spiraling out. So that's their lesson. That's the Russian doll breakdown. But like I said, yeah, be entertained by all this other stuff, but keep in mind the intentions behind all this. These individuals or these production companies put millions and millions of dollars in here. You think, look at how intricate I'd get in these videos. I'm not getting paid shit to do any of this. I'm just, the ideas are driving this. And look at how complex and intricate and detailed a lot of these little YouTube videos get. You don't think they're going to put all that shit in like a deep symbolic stuff when they have all the resources in the world? That's why each scene, each clip, each little thing that you're looking at right now has something in it. Like, look at the colors in here, blue and red. Yeah, like that extreme contrast. She's talking to the scientist who created this, this joint or put something in her drugs that she thinks is fucked up. She's talking to the scientist and her drug dealer. So, like everything that you click on, everything that you see, the fire escape, the elevator, their relationships, blue moon, look in the background. I mean, everything. If we didn't see a lot of this, there was another something in the background. When you look at all this stuff, you'll see all the background images. There was a a really good one. I can't remember. It's towards the end. Like even down to her makeup, like her eye makeup, and that's not like what the chicken thing. Who the fuck makes a chicken on a birthday? Her relationship, her mother, like another thing. Like this is another. Like look how this scene is set up. This is like the alcohol, the two vagina windows, their doorway. They're like looking loving. This is our ex-boyfriend, girlfriend shit. This is a like perfect world in this whole thing. This is like normal and everything, but when you really break it down, it gets really, really, really deep. The alchemy of movie making. This is another thing apart. I wanted to talk about this later on, and I'll end it on this. The alchemy of Hollywood is very, very deep and very similar to military life. I'm going to do a breakdown of this, but I wanted to let people know that in reference to like the SAG, like to become like official actor or something or recognized by the Screen Actors Guild and all that other shit. One way that you could apply to get your SAG card is if I think it's either a director or even like I think it's a director. If a director gives even an extra on a set, any kind of direction, if a director tells you, like you're an extra on a set, you move over here and say this, and they do that in the world, and then they get used or whatever. That in the world of Hollywood, the Hollywood universe, that's like a god or a king knighting somebody. For people who are completely lost about what I'm talking, it's kind of vague. What I'm saying is that there's stipulations to signing up for your SAG card. Like you can't do it unless you've been featured in some kind of way in films or something like that. There's rules The thing is, one of the loopholes to those rules, or one of the included, it's not really a loophole, it's included on purpose from my perspective, is that if one of the directors gives you directions on a set, you are now like in. You have been recognized by the gods. And you now can, this is a real fucking thing. This is a real thing. Like, you can't, like, that same extra can't apply for his SAG card if that hadn't happened. But since that happened, they can now do it. So this is that whole world of the whole stars of the universe, the whole gods of our universe, the whole gods of any universe. This is how, just kind of like the maritime admiralty system. It's very, very similar to walking onto a ship, in you know, thinking that you're, or realizing that you're walking onto a ship on the waters of the maritime admiralty system, instead of you walking into a courtroom talking to the judge. You're not talking to the judge. You're talking to the skipper. You know, you're talking to. So this whole thing, the same thing happens, like I said, in the movie world, in the movie universe. If they just look at you and say something like that, like, move over here, you are alive. They have given you life. They have birthed you into their universe. So I just wanted to share that with people, to let people know that's just like another like Easter egg that's part of the Hollywood underground symbolic bullshit. And it's not even underground, it's known. Like, I learned that in a fucking community college film class. So yeah, all this shit is real. Like, it has an effect on us on like a soul level. Like, if these docu-series or these Netflix things are going, this is pretty deep, you know, in comparison to like the Armageddon movie, or some of this other bullshit like Austin Powers and shit like that. Just like other just really, really adolescent movies. This goes into some deeper shit. And like when I talk about that stuff, I just wanted people to keep in mind, like, when they go into this deeper shit, it's on purpose. It's not just out there for your entertainment. So anyway, I don't want to go on too much anymore. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for the support. And it's time from all my relations. Peace, love, and harmony.